Hey there, you beautiful badass. Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show. I'm your host, Carrie Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby. Struggling to hit those big company goals you set last year? Well, Q1 is almost over. Are you making real progress or just telling yourself you still have time? Varsity Laurel Consulting helps leaders gain clarity and get shift done. That's SHIFT. Whether you need to refine your vision, align your team, or bring your organization's values to life, they've got you covered. And yeah, you've heard her name before. She was on the show a few months ago and we talked about confidence, vulnerability, and reaching big goals. Well, now it's your turn. Now through March 14th, they're offering 3 powerful experiences designed to bring clarity, alignment, and momentum to your organization at the best value yet. So stop feeling stuck and start making moves. Visit varsitylaurel.com to learn more and book a convo today. Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit. Let's get real here. Aging isn't always cute. Wrinkles, things sagging where they didn't before. Do I hate my partner or is this perimenopause? I've been there. And that's why I'm all about Donaldson. From plastic surgery to aesthetics to functional medicine, they help you love your body and get to know it better. Want to feel like yourself again? Head to donaldsonhealth.com. And if you're a first-time client, mention the Carrie Croft Show for $100 off your first treatment. You're welcome. Jessica Brugger, welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here.
Let's talk about me, you, interiors.
Oh
whatever.
no, we're going to talk about you. This is a 90% you, 10% me.
Great.
Type
I've been
scenario.
waiting for this moment my whole life.
No
then.
pressure.
I'm in.
So how do we find each other?
Way back, System of Strength, right? And then sliding into your DMs late last year as you were doing the show, and I was a fan to say hello and what's happening, and I'm loving this.
Yeah, I think you got on my Calendly, didn't you?
Yeah.
I have a Calendly in my DM that if you're trying to start something, if it's starting a family, starting a business, even if it's like some kind of internal thing you're trying to do, self-confidence, where's the inner badass, I'm trying to be a magnet for those people. So I have time carved out in my schedule if you want to get on my Calendly via my link in my bio.
Yes,
and
that's absolutely what it was.
A really great way to kind of, break the ice, say hello, get to know one another. And as it turns out, you're just the perfect person to have in the chair in terms of corporate America, high-powered exec turned entrepreneur. And there's nothing I love or feel more than that because samesies.
Yeah, we had that in common, and it's great to sort of see your trajectory selfishly because of that shared background. And so that was a really fun connection. And then also that I never thought that this would be what I was doing.
Well, I'm going to start with that because when I was researching and you had written what you wrote on your intake form, it's probably such a typical story for people. So you have great parents. You are lucky to have grown up with 2 parents who are
Totally,
but parents want their kids most parents let's be conservative. Let's get the job that's quote unquote safe, do the 401k, go on vacation. Like the idea of you ever peeking your head outside of the line to say, maybe I could do something on my own. That didn't feel attainable.
No, it wasn't even a consideration. And what's interesting, I think, about my upbringing in that respect is that my mom's parents were entrepreneurs. They owned their own business. They did very well at it. And so she grew up in that. And I think it's probably that experience that made her, the amount of times if anything came up while I was in corporate, her answer was sort of, my mother would never say shut up. But if she did, be quiet, be thankful, stay where you are, you get paid good money, you're respected. Don't question anything. This is what you do. And I think it's because in her life, they were the ultimate of entrepreneurs, right? It was busy, it was crazy, it was scrappy all the time. And so she wanted it to be easier, I think, for me.
Well, and you were really successful in corporate America.
Was
You
doing
were
just
doing your
fine.
thing.
Sure.
So you're high-powered corporate. You're making a lot of money. That paycheck looks real nice every month.
Super good.
Golden handcuffs, baby.
Yeah, love
Golden handcuffs. So what was the catalyst? What was the aha moment?
I laugh that whenever I tell this story, it's sort of like I didn't have an aha moment for a relatively smart person. I had about 42. So aha moments. I think one biggie was I had been at an agency for a year or so, and I was like, I'm not excited. And where I say it's as creative as maybe a corporate career can be, unfortunately for me, that agency wasn't that case. There was a lot of this is the way that we do it. And I kept getting sort of 3 steps forward and pulled back, like so many of us that are in corporate have that experience, I think. And so it was really feeling unfulfilling. And I had 2 small kids. And I think that for me, it became a matter of how valuable is my time. And I have never, and I can't imagine ever considering being a stay-at-home parent. It's just sort of not who I am. But I did recognize that for the amount of time that I was away from my family, what I was doing with that time wasn't really fulfilling me in any way other than a really nice title and a paycheck. I had been renovating homes pre-marriage, 15, 20 years. I thought everyone did that. I thought everyone did what I did every time I moved into a home, for the most part. And so naive me, in realizing sort of over time that that's not the case, was like, hey, I'll go back to school and get certified as an interior designer. I'm doing all this work anyway. Like, let me learn what I don't know on the side of the business. And it'll just be for fun thing. It'll be a thing I do for creative fulfillment. So I did it super casually for about a year or so. And then my company, like so many, had been downsizing. And so I had started interviewing, and I was in this final interview for this behemoth job that was the money and the title and the 401k matches. It was all the cachet. And when I wrapped that final interview and I talked to my husband that night, and he was like, how did it go? And I was like, I do not want to do it. Like, I just don't, I'm thinking about like the day and like, I just don't want to do it. And Sean and I are so insanely different. And he's like, then don't do it. Oh, you make that sound so easy. You're crazy. That's not an option. But it planted the seed to be like, what would it take for me to do it? Could I not do it? What does that look like? And so sure enough, I was like, guys, I so appreciate the opportunity. I'm out. And I gave myself the rest of that year to build the business like a business that I would build for my clients back, in corporate. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, it's not going to be some mom and pop, you're getting some handwritten Word document kind of thing. It's going to be branded. It's going to have a point of view. I will be the forefront and the name, and I will be counted on by clients, and we're going to have a really high standard here and do it right. And so I built that in the remainder of 23 and then said, here's the revenue goals. Here's the deal goals I've got for the first quarter of last year. If I hit them, it's a go. If I don't hit them, I'm getting back on the trail of interviewing and finding something.
So trying to put myself in the mind of somebody listening to this right now, because a lot of these stories we tell, it's like very high level and here's what I did. And it sounds so easy, right? The person at home that's like, man, that sounds really great. But like, I need money. I have to it would be really great. How am I going to make it for 6 months? So how did you, when he said, okay, then don't, were you guys equal breadwinners?
No.
Okay. So you're the breadwinner.
Total.
And so how did you actually get yourself from him saying, don't do it, to looking at the runway to say, here's the actual financial plan? How did you do that?
Because it's this like glorious follow your dream kind of a convo without that. And I think that is the anti-conversation that I want to have. Like, I am not the person that's like, follow your passion. I'm like, follow your passion if if it's not a not-for-profit at the end of the day, but let's be real. Truly what I did was a few really logical things and a few that maybe are a little kooky. But the one was I hired a coach. I hired a coach that specialized in the interior design business, and I found somebody that really I felt like I could relate to and have some really direct and straight talk, because that's a requirement for me. Like I don't want to talk about fluff. I want to talk about tactically. What number of posts on Instagram does this mean? You know, like I'm in the weeds of this whole thing. But really the biggest thing I wanted to say was like, not only can I make X money, do you know people in this industry that are doing that? And then let's talk about what are those pillars? Is it presence online? Is it a really clear branding image? Is it, and at the end of the day, I think we probably all know it's all of those things, but I had to make sure prior to going in that I said, these are the 5 things. These are the 5 pillars that I know have to exist. Hey, you that specializes in this area and has been in it way longer than me, are these the 5 things? Are there other things I should be thinking about? I made sure and went to great lengths and investment to say, who are the experts? What are the questions I need to ask? Because I'm not the expert, and that's okay. I will be the expert, but that's not now. So it was a coach, and then to your point, Carrie, it was a really, really nitty-gritty Excel spreadsheet to say, here's what we have in savings. Hey, we thought it was going to go to a new car, a vacation, and this and that, and if the furnace blows out. But realistically, let's take the run rate of our monthly expenses, and then every so often I'm going to blow it up and say something happens and add $5,000 unexpectedly. How long can we go and not miss a mortgage payment or something, right? Like how long until we're worried about groceries? It gave me the opportunity to say, what's the time worth? What's the creativity worth? What is the real runway? When you think about corporate America, is you theoretically have this very tidy wind down to retirement. And then you've had this 401k match that I joke constantly about in your Roth IRA and your financial planner. And like none of that exists in the entrepreneur journey. What does exist though is my ability to build the empire that I hope Dwell Well Design Company becomes. And then I get to say, as I want to retire, I'm going to do half this work. I'm going to do a quarter of this work. Then it feels way less like work. And that gives me sort of a world where I'm still part of it and doing what I love, but in a way that is almost only fun. So the retirement or the wind down looks very different, but I could see that as well. And then let's be a little bit crazy, because I'm a Gemini, and I'm the most Gemini on the earth. I went to Willow, who I check in with once a year or so on my tarot cards, and was like, hey, can I do this and will I be poor? Will my children never be able to go on vacation if I do this? I reached out to 4 or 5 of my previous coworkers who had left corporate and gone out on their own and either franchised, become realtors, and were just killing it at their game, and said, what do I not know? What have I not thought of? What would you say to you 5 years ago if you were doing this over again? So I did a ton of Excel spreadsheets, and I did a ton of introspection, and I did less business plan writing than I would have anticipated for me, but I did a lot more thinking through, what do I want the brand to be? What do I want the brand to stand for? What do I want to make sure that I'm incorporating in the larger picture of it from the absolute beginning of this, and not waiting until 10 years down the road? So some of those things are really putting time and legwork into getting to know the arts scene around Columbus. So artists, makers, tradespeople. I really want people to know that they can have original art in their homes, and it can mean something, and it should feel like something when you're in your home. It shouldn't just be pretty spaces. So what are sort of all of those pieces that I want to bring into this story that I'm helping you tell in your home?
How much runway, how many months did you have where you're like, I'm comfortable for how many months?
My real life was I had 14 months, and then I was like, you start interviewing, and then you plan for about 6 to 8 months of interviewing to find the right thing.
And then when did your revenue start to kick in? How many months did it take you to get maybe a right around where you were?
I'm still working on that, and I will say I did not take any pay for the first year. I just wanted to keep reinvesting it. So I was able, again, that runway, right, that time gave me the ability to say, write off the money. You know that you can live. You know your kids can live. They can still play club soccer. We're fine. Do what you need to do to build this business. Listen, we worked hard to have a really great savings to be able to do that. So I don't discount the work that we did to be able to do that. And, but it gave me the ability to say what's the right thing for the business and what's the business I want to build. Sort of fuck the money right now. We'll get to that.
I think it's important for people to know who, everybody has this dream. Everybody's daydreaming about shit, but just daydreaming about something, it's like cats daydream. Just because you have this daydream in your mind, like I'd love to start X, it's so important that when you do take that leap, that you're set up for success. Because if you do take it and you fail miserably the first time, right, if you're not putting the calculated risk, if you do have a dual income family, if you do have children, you have to think through financially, like what does this runway look like? And then, like, to your point, forecasting enough. Don't sit there and spend 6 months on a business plan. If writing the business plan is what's holding you back, please call me. Your business plan is going to change every 6 months to every year. So I'm not saying like don't do a business plan, but don't be so focused on this business plan, right? Focus, like what you said, on making sure that you have all of those quote unquote pillars aligned. How are you going to sort of like Geppetto this thing and visualize how are you going to have those revenue buckets? How are you going to create revenue and value and be in alignment?
Hey, Maria Milligan here with RE/MAX Premier Choice. Being a realtor here means being part of a community. I'm more than just a business card. I'm someone you'll see around town. I build trust with my clients because I care about this community and the people in it. Ready to take that next step? Let's do it together. Text me at 614-314-1355.
Who says you need a special occasion to feel like a celeb? I mean, stress is real. Life is busy. And your scalp? Yeah, it deserves some love too. That's where Headspace by Mia Santiago comes in. Treat yourself or someone who deserves it to a luxurious scalp treatment and a killer blowout or cut, because nothing says main character energy, honey, like a fresh style from celebrity stylist Mia and her team. And because we love a good deal, mention the Carrie Croft Show and get 20% off your service or any gift card for somebody in your life that you love. Headspace by Mia Santiago, because great hair days shouldn't be rare. We always say, like, with corporate America, safe. It's safe. No, it's not. Like, and that's what we're realizing. So I say that because if that's your reason out there, if your reason for not starting your thing is because you feel safe,
Yeah.
honey,
Right.
I hate to blow that illusion for you, but you're not.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's only happening more and more, right? So I know plenty of folks that are, to your point, they're writing the business plan, but that's been a solid 5 years now. It's not the business plan. And that's okay. If this is not your thing, that's okay. This is tough. There's no path. And that business plan, promise, will change in 3 months. And it'll change again in 3 months. And that's got to be okay too.
I just know my brain never, ever turns off. And it gets very exhausting at times. And I wish that I could just stop the train. But I don't know really how to do that.
I have yet to figure it out. We were chatting prior to starting here that I was on vacation with my family in the world's most overwhelming location, which is Disney and Universal Studios. And I, numerous times, had to be like, you guys go ahead and do the ride or the thing or whatever that is. I need to just make some notes in my phone. I need to make a list. I need to make some notes because it's consuming my brain, and I'm just worried that I'm going to forget about it or not think about it or not organize it in this, sort of actionable way. And so I just need to pause for a moment and do that. Part of that is making sure that I'm really spending my time intentionally. I think will forever be a challenge for me and people that have the personality that is just a lot of ideas, a lot of things going on.
How has this been is it Sean?
Yeah.
So what would he say if we called him?
He would say that he's not surprised at all. And he would say he's probably a little bit tired of being shipping and receiving at our house at all times. But I've always been me. So whether that was the corporate America version of this or this entrepreneur, dwell well design company version of this, I've always been very busy. I've always been speeding rapidly through sort of everything, and a type A and a creative. And so, yeah, he would say it's going amazingly. He's super proud. He's excited. Probably wishes I were a little calmer.
Well, Sean, I wouldn't, hold your breath on that one. Or do you feel totally fulfilled? Like, are you like, I can't believe I did corporate for so long? Or are you like, holy shit?
This is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. It is absolutely worth it to me in every respect of it. But I also think that I'm very, very lucky that my corporate career gave me an amazing amount of knowledge and learning to be able to walk in to this journey and not just screw it all up from the beginning. The amount of overlap and the amount of things that I'm using from that career is wildly more than I even anticipated at the beginning. And I worked with some really exceptional people in my corporate career, and some really unexceptional ones.
I was saying, I'm sure you had a bunch of douchebags too. Let's not
forget about those words. Totally.
Going back to you personally, it feels like you've had a pretty solid, stable, kind of like humming right along kind of life, which is amazing. You did say you were born with a cleft palate.
Yeah.
How big of a deal was that for you? Like, how did that shape you? Because you had mentioned a couple of surgeries and one in which you couldn't eat for a month. So like,
it was a much bigger deal for my parents than it was for me. So when I was born, I had a cleft palate, meaning I had no roof in my mouth. So mine did not go. Often you see folks with a scar on their lip. My palate, it wasn't a cleft lip. It was just the palate. So as a child, my tongue could flip all the way over backwards and smother me. So I was carried on my stomach. I was wedged in a crib on my stomach. And so I say, like, the impact to me is wildly less than the impact. Can you imagine being a parent
I'm
to
literally thinking about your mom as we speak. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Wait a minute. So how long until you were able to even have the surgery?
Yeah.
Like, how long did they have to do that with?
I was a year and a half old before they created a palate in my mouth.
So the doctor was like, hey, listen, like, there's a chance that she could like, so because the tongue goes back.
Yeah, you can flip right over. So like, I don't have like a uvula or anything now because it's a created palate in my mouth.
Poor parents.
But just imagine that's just a giant open cavity. So glamorous. A giant open cavity. My poor parents. They didn't anticipate any of that. It was like, wait, what's wrong? What's going on? And eating, as you can imagine, without suction for a bottle is really challenging.
Does she talk about how traumatizing that was for them?
No.
Did you ever ask her?
I mean, yeah, it's like no big deal. This is what it was. And
It's like anything, it's funny. You go through something, but then like a year later, you're like, yeah, that was hard. But I'm just putting myself in that position with a baby, trying to like. I bet you she was an absolute
Can you
wreck.
I
Oh
would
my
have been
God.
a mess.
Yeah.
No, I would have absolutely been a mess.
Yeah.
When they created the palate in my mouth, they did a projection, like many of us did when we had kids, of like, how big is your kid going to get? But in this case, they did the projection to say how big and what's the structure of the face so that they can create a palate, because it's not going to grow. And so when I was in 8th grade, I had to have another surgery because, I don't know, my head was larger than anticipated. I don't know what the whole deal was, right?
They're like, oh, got that wrong.
Giant head on this one. We're going to have to do something about that. And so they took a muscle from inside my throat, put it across the back of my throat so that the palate in my throat would close on noises that it needed to do that. So I sounded pretty nasally prior to that. And I was in the hospital for about a week. And then I could not eat for a month. It was a liquid day. It was a lot of Ensure for a month. And so I missed basketball season, and I lost a whole bunch of weight, of course, and absolutely hated Ensure. And my kids now, it's so funny. They see the commercials for Ensure on like Disney Plus or whatever. And they're like, that looks great. And I'm like, I can't even think about it.
You're like, trauma. Stop it right now.
Yes.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, were kids, did they bully you before that when you sounded different? Or were they like, was there anything, or they just kind of like knew you as you? Like,
yeah, I think I don't think anybody questioned it. That's just, and I think because it gradually, right, that gradually happened over time as I got bigger. And I don't think that it was so much a thing. I think also I probably benefited from, again, the fact that like, I've been me the whole of my life. And so I am a little bit just like, this is it. We just continue on and barrel through. And so I find when you don't give people too much a choice, they're
Right. Well, kids are little assholes.
right. I mean, eighth grade was not the prime for anybody, but
I was I was so tall and had braces and a perm. I mean, it was a real sight to see. All right, so let's talk about this design alchemy that you have here, because so it's Dwell Well. Talk to us about this.
I write design alchemy each year at the beginning of the year. And it is the intention and the idea behind the whole thing is it's really about being forward looking about interior design, but in an approachable way. So we don't live in Paris or New York, but we still want to have great interiors that are interesting. And so my job, I think, is to say what's real, but let's push you a little bit and say how visually do you want to tell your story in your home. And so this year's design alchemy is focused on 3 different areas. The classics. Classics are back hardcore. Think, crown molding and box pleats and skirts on furniture again. So the classics are back, man. Natural and organic, sort of 2 sides of that one. Of course, bringing plants and live into your space, we have only realized more and more is such a game changer for our moods, for how we live, for how we feel in our spaces, but also the natural and organic shapes. So things that are handmade, tactile, layered textiles, things like that. And then individualistic interiors, which is probably my favorite, which means like everything and anything goes. There are ways to bring the wild, the crazy, the kitschy, the whatever you love into your home and still make it feel very elevated and high end and have a whole bunch of character. So we talk about some ways to do that. And then I also always include a toolkit in the back, which changes, but the one constant in it is the Dwell Well Design Company color box, which is our pick for colors, paint colors for the year, what we're loving, why we're loving it. And it's a great place if you're like, I need to spruce some stuff up in my home. Start with the walls. The paint color makes such a big difference. But also, like, what are our must-haves in the world of home? I talk about keys to lighting because, man, lighting, there's a lot to it, and it makes such a huge difference. So this year's edition has quite a few keys to lighting, depending on your spaces that you're talking about. And then just a little bit of a, like, meet the team. Here's our process. Here's how we do what we do.
I love this paint color.
Thank you. What I like about this one is it feels red, but it's not the red of 1993,
No.
right? It's got a lot of black in it. So to your point, it really makes it pretty darn neutral. If Alexis from Schitt's Creek were a color, this would be it. It's confident, it's timeless, it's effortlessly bold. And anytime I can bring Schitt's Creek into a conversation, it's a real win for me.
It took a little like nudging. Like I probably had people tell me like 20 times I had to watch that, and I was like refusing because I'm just not a big comedy. I don't know. I just whatever. Give me a Dateline Murder any day. I watched that and I was like, this is something else.
So good.
So effing good. So what else before we wrap this up? What else do you want people to know about Dwell Well?
I really focus on full service interior design. I found that people are not only a bit overwhelmed and intimidated by creating their personality and themselves in a home and all of the layers and thought that goes into that and decisions. It is a lot. At Dwell Well, we're really dedicated to managing the whole process and makeover, if you will, end to end. And that makes it a little easier for our clients as well as sort of that ideal outcome. And selfishly for me, I get to walk away from it and be like, no, that's exactly what it should be for that person. And so we're really excited and dedicated. I'm very excited about creating and translating people's personality, who they are and what they love, into their space. Nobody's just going to look the same. You don't want to live in a showroom, and you don't have to wait until your kids are 20 to live somewhere that you love. We really, really vehemently believe in the power of home and starting your day and ending your day in a place that feels just like you and the way that you want it to feel and can enter the world in a confident, happy person and place. I think home is that for all of us. And quite honestly, let's not be too precious about it. Let's make it fun. Let's make it interesting, and let's make it really different for everyone. I'm booking out now into summer and fall, which is really fun.
Damn, girl.
Right?
Can I get a damn girl for? Hey, listen, sorry guys, she's booking out into 2027.
No. It's an exciting thing to even
That's
be able
awesome.
to say.
Yeah, good for you.
But it's refurnishes, it's kitchens, it's finishing basements, it's all the fun stuff.
Yeah, and what would you say to people who are like, oh, I don't want to do this because it'll hurt the resale value of my home, so I'm going to keep everything very... Who wants to live like that?
It's exactly what I say. You live in your home.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that people don't maybe count as much is whenever the time comes that somebody is coming to look at your home, to potentially live in your home, even if they say that's not the color I would have painted the walls or the rug I would have put on the floor, they're going to notice and appreciate the manner with which it's executed. Says so much, and people are so envious of that. So yeah, no, that's not a thing. Live in a place that you want to live in that feels like you. AKA
dwell well.
Dwell
well, baby. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. I love that we connected via Calendly and the universe and the interwebs.
Right? Thank you.
So another PSA for anyone out there who's listening, I do have a Calendly up. I have time carved out. I want people, starters, doers, dreamers, executors who need a nudge, or if you want some advice, anything, a pep talk, tough love, I'll tell you your baby's ugly. I will give you all the honest feedback. So find it on my bio and Instagram, and you can just click on it, schedule a time, and let's just kind of lock eyes and see what happens. I care and I want to meet you. So thank you for taking me up on it. This is why we're sitting here. This is how things happen. If you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, go check out Dwell Well. There's a free download, Design Alchemy. It's really, really comprehensive and good. I highly recommend you go there, check it out, check her out. And if you have a lot of time to wait, 2027, sign up with her because she's super busy. She's fucking good. And keep moving, baby.